Hi everyone, I'm Sandy and welcome back to my channel. Today I have my October reading wrap up for you. I had a wonderful reading month in October. I scratched off some really big books on my list and I almost finished my TBR. I came so close, but didn't quite get there. So I'm excited to walk through the ones that I haven't talked about before. I will talk through all the books that were on my TBR that I finished, but I might have already talked about, and then a few books that I haven't talked about yet. So I'm excited. Let's get started. So in October, the main event that I participated in was Victober. I love Victober, but I was a bit ambitious with having some of the books that I had on my list to try and read at the same time. The four books that I had picked for Victober were The Tenant of Wildfeld Hall by Anne Bronte, Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy, A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, and The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I tried to read A Tale of Two Cities and The Woman in White at the same time, and that just didn't work. So I was actually only able to finish 3 of the 4 books, and the book that got put aside that I haven't finished yet is The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I had a buddy read going for A Tale of Two Cities. That's why I kept that one going and stopped this one, and I had struggled to read A Tale of Two Cities in the past, so it was really important that I try and finish that one in October. But The Woman in White was the one I had to put aside, and it was more around the characters were the same or similar names, Lucy and Laura. The atmosphere was kind of similar, and I just couldn't keep everything straight, so I had to put one aside. You will see that there is a bookmark in here. I have been working on this one. It is on my 2022 list for the 1001 book list, so I need to finish it this year. And I actually am really enjoying this book, and I've hit kind of a critical, it feels like turning point in the story. Now I'm like, okay, what happens next? It just unfortunately didn't make it. It's the one book I didn't finish, but I'm still enjoying it quite a bit, but it didn't finish. Bummer. Okay, so that's the one. That's the one book I didn't finish. The other books that I read off of the 1001 book countdown were The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton and 1004 by Ben Lerner. I have a video out with both of those books, and you're welcome to go and watch that if you want to learn more about either one of those. Outside of that, I had a nonfiction pick that I haven't actually talked about yet. So this will be the first book that I go into more detail on, and it was Hunger by Roxane Gay. I was able to finish this book, and this book is really a memoir of Roxane Gay's and talks about just her life when she was a young child and all of the trauma that she had when she was 12 years old that really influenced her going forward and influenced her in the way that she ate as well. She ate to try and feel better, to try and make herself more unattractive, all of these different pieces. And it really contributed to how she handled things later in life. At her heaviest weight, she weighed 577 pounds. And so a lot of this book is really talking about a memoir of her body and how she was or how she felt when she had to do certain things, how uncomfortable, how difficult it was to go to the airport, fly on a plane, to go to the grocery store, to walk somewhere, whatever it was, how just difficult that experience was. And it goes through a lot of examples, and some of them are just terrifying what she had to go through. Some of them are difficult as well. All of them I read and was just like, yikes, it's really, really hard. It gave me such a great perspective for someone who is this large and what they go through. I thought that part of the book was brilliantly done. I am not skinny, but I would be qualified as skinny fat in this book. I would not, that I don't necessarily have all of the same experiences as someone like Roxane Gay did at her heaviest. I thought that was a really great and important perspective for me personally, because I think I'm way too hard on myself. And this book gave me a little bit of that perspective and just kind of made me see some things slightly differently. There were some amazing lines in this book. One was, it's dangerous to equate your size with self-worth, and I think that is a really important piece of this. There was a section in this book where she talks about where she's going through and saying, I'm the fattest woman on this plane. I'm the fattest person in this grocery store. I'm the fattest person on the street. I'm the fattest person here. And those thoughts have went through my mind. And so I thought that that was really helpful as well, because it just showed me how destructive some of that thought was for me, and really gave me an interesting, like I said, interesting perspective. My issue with the book is around, it comes across in the end as being kind of hopeless for people who are overweight, hopeless for like things will be better, hopeless that you change, hopeless that all of these bad things that happened, and there's nothing really kind of else. And I wanted something more. I needed something more. I wanted it to say something positive and in the end it just didn't quite get there, and that was the part that I struggled with. I think this is an important book if you want to learn or have a different perspective about people who are grossly overweight. It definitely gave me some food for thought around some things, which I thought was really important. I wouldn't recommend this book to everyone. This is not a book about a transformational weight loss. She goes from 577 pounds and loses 300 pounds. It's not that story. It is more about just learning about what someone can go through and how they're treated. I think the back of this book has one of the best quotes on it, where it says, Roxane Gay explores what it means to be overweight in a time when the bigger you are, the less you are seen. And I thought that was really a really interesting line in this book as well. It is moving, it's terrifying, it's impactful, can be a bit complainy. There's a lot of detail in there. It almost got there for me. I'm very happy I read it, and I'm very glad I read it when I did. But it is one that I think I have another book that I just read for Nonfiction November that I would actually say gives a better balanced approach to this topic. But I really appreciate the guts that it took Roxane Gay to write this book, because this is basically like opening up your head and saying, this is everything I think as a fat person and how bad everything is, or how bad things can be. And so I think must have been, I'm guessing, incredibly emotional to write this, and nothing but deep respect for putting this topic out there. But like I said, I don't think it's for everyone. And if you're looking for a book that's going to help you like lose weight, help you feel better about yourself, this may not be that book. And so just keep that in mind. But it was empowering in that someone else sees and has experiences that have been similar to mine, or have thought the same things. I thought that part was really great. So Roxane Gay's Hunger, that was my nonfiction pick, and I did, like I said, finish it. Yay. And then my new release was one that I had put a video out for the Barnes & Noble Discover Prize and had everyone vote on which one I should pick up. And the winner of that was The Rabbit Hutch by Tess Gunty. And so this book actually ended up winning the Discover Prize of Barnes & Noble, which I thought was amazing. This was her debut novel. It was published in 2022, so it definitely qualifies as a new release. And this book started off incredibly strong for me. It starts off with a bunch of people living in this apartment complex that is commonly known in the neighborhood as the Rabbit Hutch. In the beginning, the the residents of the Rabbit Hutch are described by their number, C2, C4, C10. And I love that. I love that little bit of an anonymity to that. And there's one line in this where it's just one line about one person in the apartment, and you don't know her name, you know nothing else, you don't have any context to that one line. And I thought that was brilliant, because I wanted to know more about who that was and what she was doing and why that was there. I loved those sections. And there's a couple of those sections in here where it gives you an update by apartment. And I thought those were brilliant. Where the book lost me a little bit was when it switches around from perspective to perspective, and it did that quite a bit. It also had a lot of characters that's like, why are you in this book? I didn't quite understand some of those things, and it took me way too long sometimes to figure out whose storyline am I in now and what timeline am I in now? There was a brilliant item in here as well where she would say 15 hours until this event happened. And I thought that was great. I liked that kind of suspense. There's another book, I think it was Looking for Alaska by, was it John Green? I'm not sure if that's the author, but where it had a countdown to an event. I thought that was a brilliant way to kind of build suspense. And this, you had a little bit of that. There are some trigger warnings, I would say, in this. If you have any concerns, go research those before you read this particular book. There were some, tab-worthy text in here as well that I thought were really great. But overall, the book wasn't my favorite read of the month. I'm really glad I read it, but it's not what I'd say, oh yeah, go out and read this right now. It has really great reviews on Goodreads. So this could be me as a reader not enjoying multiple perspectives and weird varying timelines. But and then in the end, it's difficult. The end is difficult to read. Part of the end is difficult to read. So just know that as well going into this book. But The Rabbit Hutch by Tess Gunty was my new release for the month of October. And then I have another book that was for the Up to No Good book club. We're actually meeting the day this video goes live. So if we haven't met yet and you're in that group, know that I'm going to talk about our book. It wasn't on my TBR because the meetings sometimes for that don't quite align with when I post videos, but the book we read was The Bastard Out of Carolina by Dorothy Allison. And this book follows a character whose name is Ruth Ann but goes by Bone. It was originally published in 1992, I believe. And Bone is a very willful young girl living in a very difficult environment. Her family is incredibly poor, and those descriptions of her life and her family are devastating to read. They are really difficult. But Bone as a character, I loved her. I thought she was great. From a young girl and just kind of some of the stuff she did and some of the stuff she said, I really liked her as a character. I did not like some of the over-sexualized stuff that happens in this book. There's also definitely warnings for abuse, and there's a lot of abuse that happens in this book, and you can kind of see a lot of it coming, and some of it hit me upside the head that I didn't see coming. So I just know that as well, if that's a concern of yours, to go research the trigger warnings before you read this book. But as a whole, I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. I wanted it to be great. The first line in this book I thought was great, and I liked the beginning of the story. I loved when it was talking about the South and how poor she was and how her family had to move around all the time. I thought those sections were brilliantly done, but the over-sexualized components of it, hand in hand with some of the abuse, was just a really hard read. So would I recommend it? Maybe. It depends on what you want. Is it a coming of age story? Kind of. It doesn't really go through many of her years of her life. And then the end is maddening. It was maddening. So, but yeah, I think it was a fast read for me. I read it over a few days. But I'm struggling to figure out who I would recommend this book to. I ended up giving it kind of middle of the road ratings, and I'm excited to talk with my group today on Saturday. It's really Friday for me, but when this video goes live, it'll be Saturday. But I'm excited to talk to the rest of the group about it and see what they thought. But Dorothy Allison's Bastard Out of Carolina was the other book that I ended up reading. I did have a little mini reading slump in there after I kind of was reading A Tale of Two Cities and didn't want to pick up The Woman in White. I did pick up just a military romance novel, which I sped through, which was great. But I did kind of have a little bit of a struggle in that last week because I didn't finish a book off of the 1001 book countdown at all this week. I just didn't feel like picking up one and finishing it. So I read a nonfiction book instead this week, and I have two more nonfiction books that are kind of sitting here looking at me. So yeah, it was an interesting week. It was kind of a tough week personally. So I haven't been on BookTube much. I haven't been commenting. I haven't been online really much at all, just dealing with some stuff that happened in our family this week. And so for that, I apologize to all my friends that I haven't commented on. There has been a reason. I hope you enjoyed my wrap up. Please let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books, and wish me luck on finishing The Woman in White over the next week. I will have a countdown video, I hope, for next weekend. That would be fantastic. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, everyone, thanks. Bye.